So the hue as it was before a few years ago out in the universe and the upper worlds ran the lower worlds on automatic. They could not be changed. And if you're stuck believing you're positive and negative and fear and thinking in opposites and creating all these conditions, it kind of cuts your power, your ability to be conscious in half and grounds it to the planet you're on. And everybody grows up this way on Earth, grounded to this planet. There's a difference between being balanced as an Atma and running a body on a planet like Earth, and being unbalanced in positive and negative opposing forces while you're running a body on Earth. This is where the trap of Maya or illusion, reincarnation, the compulsion, the fear to seek the false security of a body as who you are. I mean, once we go so far as to become unconscious like we're a body, then it takes a little bit to wake up the difference again. Because we've never been a body. Not one of us has ever been a physical body, ever. And yet the illusion that we are one is so strong on a planet like Earth because 8 billion people, most of them are very unconscious on this planet. They're living lives just on kind of automatic. They run complex bodies like human, but they have as many ranges of twisted thoughts and feelings as you can possibly imagine during the course of the day, growing up with governments like they are and religions like they are, and the world doesn't change. Eventually, any world run on automatic without conscious beings will be destroyed. And it wouldn't be the first time. If Earth was to go through that again, it wouldn't be the first time life was ended on this planet. This is an illusion because people don't remember the lives they've had, here even in the past. And they've had more lives by far. Every one of us has had more lives by far in other worlds beyond Earth than we've ever had on this planet. And that means even if you've lived 10,000 lives on this planet, your lives out there are in the billions. So it means we have always been higher beings of a higher nature running higher DNA bodies than the one we're experiencing on Earth today. Once you know this, you cannot forget it. Once you know this, it's conscious and it will never leave you because the Atma begins to run that body in a more conscious way. It still runs it unconsciously, keeps the heart working and blood circulating and all that. But you're more aware of the difference. So when we go on these journeys, the advantage is we get to experience more about how life is when it's not influenced by things in Earth's atmosphere, when it's not influenced by subconscious fear. Because members of the Galactic Alliance, they are members of a great, vast world system, true, in the physical universe. But it's different than people understand on Earth because in the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, which is headquartered on a planet near the center of this galaxy, very far from Earth's solar system, the way beings are, the way they think, they're not like Earth at all. And to them, if I say one of the couple got out of a spaceship and landed and offered to take you somewhere, you'd probably run the other way until the primary implant is mastered, because it would kick in and prevent you from getting on that ship. Such beings would have such a high energy, you'd think of them like angels when you saw them. Their energy would just pick you up, tremendously boost you. And if you're not balanced to see them as fellow Atmas helping you, then you tend to put them on a pedestal, and they know that. So you see, they don't pick up people this way anymore. It's pointless. It has no constructive value at all. People that were abducted by little grays decades ago, which has ended, and put back with no memory, twisted their lives worse than they already were. So they had to go through reverse hypnosis regression therapy sessions, as rare as they've been, in order to remember what happened to them. And then their lives were back to the way they were before they were abducted. But they were not more awake, not more aware, not freer in any way. So spaceship rides are only valuable if the person going on it is going to be balanced with the beings that pick them up and will learn and be able to be helped and listen, not just be in mesmerized awe. Because long ago in the universe, you guys, all of you being on a spaceship and flying around the universe was as common as getting on a bus. And that's the way it is for people out there. Their worlds you would consider to be more paradisical or like paradise compared to anybody or anything on Earth. But you have to remember, to them it's normal. In the physical universe, that's normal for them. So Earth people have really been shut down in ways that they can't even imagine. Over a period of time so vast they can't even think of it. So most people on Earth do not ever wake up enough to ask the right questions. Questions like, what am I that it's not a physical body? What did I know before I was born on this earth? Most people wonder about it, but they don't do anything to find out. Instead, they choose a faith or belief that they can say, okay, when I die, I'll go to some heaven and then I'll be told the truth then. What they don't know is they've been doing that for billions of years and they still don't know the truth anymore. So there is no permanent heaven outside of Earth, up in the upper realities, that is like a permanent heaven for people who, in a sense, think they're saved by someone else. And they're getting a free ride, but they aren't done no work, no effort put into their own enlightenment. So it just stops their growth for that lifetime. Unfortunately, it does. All the prayers from all the religions and all the faiths on Earth in thousands, even millions of years have not changed this planet one little bit. And they don't realize this, that whatever it is they're doing, it's not enough, because we need to awaken by direct experience how we become a co-creator with this thing people call Holy Spirit or Divine Spirit. It's really an omnipresent living power. It has a sound, it has a light frequency, and it's one power through all the universe. It's never been but one power. And we as individuals are part of that one power. Always have been, always will be. You can have a billion bodies come and go, lovers come and go, families come and go, perfect mates come and go. And still, you're the Atma. We're still meant to be conscious co-creators with the source behind all life. That is why we exist. We're meant to go back to the source and deliver our own new insights and ways from our experiences, grueling, hard experiences sometimes. But we're supposed to be going back to that source and connecting, plugging into it, because it is from our experiences that that supreme being, that source, eventually gets to the point where it can change the lower worlds of time and space, if it wants to. People like Satnam, or Turelian, or Silent Mentors, they have to be motivated in some new way to change anything, or they just continue to do what they're doing. And a lot of beings that should be co-creators with the source remain trapped in bodies, unconscious, on planets like Earth. And that means the entire creation is stultified, stilted, stopped. It's there, it's alive, but it's not growing, it's not expanding. It's fine, it's created, all the galaxies, all the levels, all done, everything's working just fine. But beings running bodies in the lower worlds are not working just fine, because they don't remember how to get home. So this work was brought to this planet. Well, let's put it this way. I didn't come here thinking that I was going to be doing this work this way. I came here to meet with leaders of countries to help change this 50, 60, 70 years ago. And I wasn't the only one that came here as a kind of an ambassador to help get governments to change, get rid of nuclear weapons and all that. This has been ongoing since the end of World War II. And only certain people were contacted, very highly placed in these governments. And they've kept a lid on secrecy on their awareness of extraterrestrial life coming to this planet for all that time because of fear, their fear. Their fear that aliens will come and take us over if they give up their powerful nuclear weapons. It's so silly. Rockets take time to blast off and go up in the air and come down to explode somewhere. Advanced races could neutralize that stuff in an instant from space. So the point is that their weapons that they think they're so proud of are useless to more advanced races. They outlaw them. They don't use them. They don't use radioactive man-made materials that can kill you with radiation if they get out of a lead-lined box. They know better. They don't use energy sources like that to get around the universe. Nuclear bombs, how can a nuclear bomb ever be constructive? There's no constructive use for such things. They just give people a big ego and they sit on them and play politics with them until they destroy the planet they're on. Maldek was a planet in a way like Earth with 3 billion people on it. It circled in the orbit of a planet between Mars and Jupiter long ago in this solar system. At that time, the Galactic Alliance knew that one leader was going to destroy that place. They did not intervene because, in a sense, the mass conscious, unconscious choice of the people on that planet decided to end it or wanted a free ride. They wanted to blow themselves up because there were 3 militaristic leaders running that world at that time. The problem with not doing anything about it back then was that the effects in time and space affected the whole Galactic Alliance in a negative way because they didn't do anything. And the beings that were blown up on that world with one nuclear type of device, similar to a cobalt bomb, it reacts and chain reacts with matter if it's going off. You can't test it on a world because the whole world just comes apart. So these kinds of things, the beings that were there that left had to go somewhere. And guess what planet they went to? 3 billion of them over time. That's right, planet Earth. A lot of what people are tending to do here out of fear is reenact or recreate the destruction of Maldek. It's a perverted, subconscious, terrorizing bunch of nonsense. If nobody from outside of Earth intervened in this, they would have already succeeded again. If it weren't for beings coming here who are kind-hearted, who volunteered to help with this transformation for Earth, the people here would have ended this long ago. They wouldn't have lasted 10 years after World War II ended. People think they just never set off nuclear weapons. Well, they tried, but their launch computers were shut down from space, so they're very highly classified. They don't want to tell people that they didn't have control over their computers. That's threatening in their minds. And yet none of those races from the stars has ever come here, taken over governments, or threatened anybody when their ships have been shot at by people on Earth in their blind ignorance. That's just fear. And in all this time, no race has ever been allowed to come here and take this planet over. You'd think that leaders on Earth by now would have learned this, but they're very reluctant to give up fear. They want to. They don't want to keep lying to everybody. Lying is negative. It affects their families. They get cancer. Things aren't good. They make mistakes. And they keep trying to patch those mistakes up with a lot more billions of dollars. And it breaks out somewhere else, and it never ends. So they don't have the means at their fingertips awake to change this world from self-annihilation in time. Has to come from outside. Fortunately, that's exactly what's taking place. 10 years after World War II ended, there was no computers. There was no internet. There's no Zoom. There wouldn't have been any way for one person, unless they were a highly placed political figure that gets on TV, to tell anybody about any of this. There wouldn't be any way. Plus, something like this work has a certain protection that comes with it. And that protection is imparted to others when they go on these journeys. It's part of the deal. If it wasn't there, we wouldn't be even having these conversations. As it is, nobody attempts to shut off satellites that has to do with making these sessions work. To get over to Thailand has to go through a satellite. I don't own those satellites, and yet no one's ever tried to interfere to stop this because it's for their benefit and they know it. Down deep, they know it, so they're starting to disclose. Reluctantly, yes, but they're starting to disclose. Extraterrestrials, let's put it this way, it's pretty silly to suppress the awareness of extraterrestrial life when they themselves are extraterrestrial in origin, meaning everybody on this planet never originated here. When people start to wake this up, when you ladies wake this up, the hue, the omnipresent hue expansion ray begins to move through you all the time for your benefit, and then on its way to benefit others. It's its nature. It's the nature it is now, and it is in the process, not just for planet Earth, but the other things you're not yet aware of. We'll get into that. I'm looking at how I can start to guide things with friends from out of town to look at the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes, because you're all running a body there. You have a whole life there that's different from the one you have here. And those bodies and their lives influence you here. So if you're not even aware of what they are, you're being bumped around by influences you don't even know exist, and those are separate from implants. That kind of stuff affects whether you can wake up use of all your higher faculties in Atma. Think of it this way. On an unconscious level to some degree, each one of you is running a body on another dimension below the void right now, and you know how to do it. More complicated, finer molecular structures, higher powers in those bodies, and still not going back to source above the void to do our job. We're meant to be conscious, trustworthy co-workers and custodians and caretakers of worlds and planets and beings and insects and birds and animals and sea life, other fellow beings. They don't live like people on Earth live, that think the way they're living is normal. It's not. And they know there's something wrong the way they're living, because the world and all their prayers, it doesn't make this place change at all. People can only be given the guidance they're willing to accept. If someone wants real freedom and mastery, they have to co-creatively contribute to that mastery. It cannot be given to them. There's no savior that can wave a magic wand and give it to them, because they haven't earned it. A person hasn't shown the maturity, the responsibility, or accepted the responsibility to create an eternity properly with the source. Then the beings that work in the source are not going to grab someone and set them free, because all of that subconscious stuff and all those other lives where they had fear somehow engaged in it, and they decided to shut off certain faculties for whatever reason before they were ever implanted, all of that would still kick in if you were suddenly given freedom. There would be no maturity or mastery in the being to know how to wield those higher powers. And because of the subconscious influences, the energy would come through you in a higher way and just destroy things and yourself. And you wouldn't even know why it was happening. So enlightenment cannot be given to someone by any master anywhere. There's no such thing as some master giving us self and God realization. Possible. They can point the way. They can put an arm around our shoulders. They can point a flashlight on a path in the dark that if you took one more step, you'd fall off a cliff, and point to the right, and you see the path leads to the right. And then we have a choice to go with them along the cliff and not fall off. That's how master teachers work. Real master teachers work to help us get ourselves like them. So they teach by direct example. So we, going on these journeys, actually leave the body behind in the trance state we call sleep. Every time you've been on one of these journeys, you've actually been on the journey, no matter whether you doubt it later or not, or don't believe it, or I can't see this, or I can't see that. That's a primary implant talking, not you. That's never been you talking. That's negative. That's fear and doubt. Opposites of faith and belief are fear and doubt. So we want to get beyond faith and belief and fear and doubt into knowing. Knowing is a natural quality of us as Atmas, co-creators with the source behind all life. That is our natural state. And people on earth are not living this way at all. Doesn't matter how rich they are, what position of power they have, they're not living correctly. They're not living like many of the worlds outside of this planet and their people live. So you see, you can't take someone and pick them up and enlighten them from Earth who doesn't even have an inkling of how to live normally and throw them amidst people who don't eat or live like people on this planet. Because their habits, their addictions to things, are going to go with them. You leave the body, there's only one thing you take with you, your state of consciousness, what we're aware of or not aware of. So when people pass away, depending on who they are, some have great faith and they'll die with a smile on their face. But down deep, there's still a fear that they don't know what they're doing. And it's that fear that compels them into another incarnation somewhere. They meet guides, and the guides themselves are misdirected as well with their own fears, even in the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes. And then people just keep recycling. And it's pointless. So it's important that we start to retire the old failed experiment of good and evil and replace it with an energy that has an innate wisdom, the Hue expansion ray, which comes from above the void and is being emanated in lower worlds now through people like Turellian, the Galactic Alliance Council. And this was only recently, in few years back, when the Galactic Alliance Council, as advanced as they are, were starting to remember to go back across the void and go home, and they're going there on these journeys. I would have to say it's a privilege to cross the void. And we have to have permission of certain beings to do that, or we do not go there. Satnam is a guardian between the lower worlds and the upper realities. That's his job. There's no negative nature in him. It's not his fault Earth is like it is. That's people, beings, other Atmas like us that made things this way. Trillions of beings, not one guy sitting up there in the Atma plane. The pure you comes through such beings. They generate it downward as channels. There are doorways or portals that are more on a mechanical level. Devices through which the higher energy is transformed down to lower energy, for instance, to support the void, which is pure hue. But there's nothing there, no structures, so people think it's the realm of the Supreme Being. Either they go up and they go into it and they say, okay, that's it. No, that's not it. They don't have the awareness or the power provided to them to go across that vast void and enter the first of the upper realms. This has to be provided with us and for us by other beings, not just on our own. This is very important. If you want to go up to the source itself, Prime Creator, we have to go through Agam Purusha. Now, this is a being, you can't even think in terms of them being humble. There's no ego, no negative nature up there. They function in absolute dedication, 24/7. Never falter, never sleep, never get tired. They've been there for maybe even 1 trillion years. Creation's very old. Trillions of galaxies out there on multiple dimensional levels. And all of that's done. All those levels are created and functioning properly and being held in place and managed by the silent mentors. Silent mentors were known in ancient Galactic Alliance history, but none of them had ever experienced one. In fact, the only place we can experience them for now is to go to the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. above the void, above Satnam's realm, because that is where we can rub shoulders with them, not down here. We're not ready for direct confrontation on a planet like Earth, or even in the Galactic Alliance, for beings like that to walk amongst us. They don't normally have a connection with teaching Atmas like us, or helping people become masterful. Master teachers do that. Those beings have run the mechanics of creation forever. And it's all held in place by them. Their numbers, you can't count them. The training you go through to be one of them would be make your existences and lifetimes on earth and suffering seem like a cakewalk. So you can always have the ambition of being one of them, but I personally don't want to be. There's enough of them. I do not envy them. I do not covet Satnam's job. I don't want his job. I don't want Torellian's job. I respect and love these beings. I'm happy to have any association with them whatsoever. And you don't get it easily, and it can't just be given to you on a golden platter, like entertainment. That's quite impossible. When I first met Torellian, it was unexpected. Entirely unexpected on my part. I was in the middle of journeying, writing the Savior's Agenda book, and all the things that go on in that book, and much more that's not revealed in it, when I met him. And I happened to be on Zetranamon 1, near the galactic core of this galaxy, when he showed up there in front of 5,000 Galactic Alliance members. I experienced him at that time. Now, he's not a silent mentor. Well, he might be now, but he's not saying so. But the Sayres race are mentored by the silent mentors, mechanics of creation. And they've always had that connection with them. So they're extremely advanced beings. Why someone like Torellian would hold his thumbs up and stand in the circle of a bunch of beings like us and do this regularly, voluntarily, it's because it is the most constructive thing that he and other beings can do right now in creation. They're not limited to the lower planes. They're not stuck here. He doesn't even have a physical body to have a burden of running one. And yet he's got a physical body-like presence made of energy, which is the true way. He's not trapped by it. Doesn't have to eat. He doesn't have to go to the bathroom. None of that. Doesn't age. You can't destroy it. A nuclear bomb wouldn't harm it. It's a projection from the white core of the Atma he is. And we do exactly the same thing. The sad part is, I don't know if it's sad, let's just say it's ridiculous, that all the people living on Earth today, long ago once knew this. Some of them would fight you to the death if you tried to change their belief system or anything else, and I would never dream of it. I'm not the one that changes what they do. Each person does that. When they take a step forward, things that no longer serve them or do not help change themselves or creation drop away because they've stepped into something greater. And then you have to learn what's the law of right discrimination. This is one of the higher faculties of an Atma, tuned into source power itself. It gives us the ability, and we do the best we can with it, to know when to speak to another being on Earth or when to hold our tongue, when to be a channel for the you and say nothing. Because if you do, you're going to get slapped. Some people are going to argue with you and come at you and defend their whatever it is they believe in. So we have to learn when to keep silent and let the greater power move through us, because it knows how to change them better than we ever will. Praying for another without their permission is a form of black magic. It's working with the negative power. People do it all the time, and they self-righteously believe it's the right thing to do. But it's a psychic intrusion. It's an invasion. No one has the right to pray for another without their permission. This is something people on earth do not yet understand. So they're basically creating more negative karma, which makes it harder for them to come out of waking up, coming out of this trap, to remember who they are, because they keep creating negative things. They're taught this by their own leaders, who themselves are doing the same thing. So when we work with the hue, consider it the greatest prayer. There's no thought, no emotion manipulating and twisting the hue. You just hue. You're plugging into the one omnipresent power that is above, beyond, and is not part of positive and negative, good and bad, fear and death, life, all that stuff. That's not natural and normal for us. That's natural and normal for material creations. Bodies, animals, plants, human, humanoid, extraterrestrial, Pashat, lion-like beings, mantis, like multi-legged insect-like creature. They're not bad. They're just not human. And Atmas run those too. There's wonderful races out among the stars. And Earth people are going to have to get used to the fact that they are not the elite of God. They are not less than others, but they're not more than either. And if we expect to ever grow up and run bodies in the lower planes in an enlightened way, where we're not trapped anymore, then we have to accept our responsibility in eternity for having created this mess. Because all of us did this together. Before the lower worlds of time and space were built, there was no single big being on a throne called God that did all this and stuck us in it in a sadistic manner. We did this to ourselves. And if we want to change it, we have to help fix it by going back to source. So we're going there on this journey. And every time we do that, we are beginning, let's just say it rubs off on us, and then we bring it back into and through the bodies that we have stationed on the etheric, mental, causal, astral, and physical. So maybe we'll get going on this journey, and on our return, we're going to stop in each one of those planes. And you're going to visit the body you're running there. This is a first. It's the first time that I'm doing this. We could have done it in our group journey in Thai with English being translated, but we didn't have time. Other things were more important. And frankly speaking, going back to source and to Satnam's realm is more important than the bodies you're running in the lower planes. But bringing back a higher awareness to them that has no negative nature is what this work is about. It is unique. It is a unique doorway into this planet. It cannot be duplicated by others. It cannot be copied and pasted by others. It is so far beyond the people of this earth. The grace, the privilege of co-creating in this way with masterful beings is exactly that. They choose what they do of free will. I choose what I do of free will. And we work together in trust, and because we've known each other a long time. So they're waiting for us out in space. This is telepathic. It was from the time I hit the record button. So all this information is part of the journey. It's waking up in you. The omnipresent power supports all life. Planets, moons, suns, galaxies, dimensions, doorways between dimensions. Animals, plants, insects, life, human, humanoid, and every other kind of race, the Drens, anything you can think of, and stuff you can't even imagine at this point that exists out there in great numbers. It supports it all, without bias, without prejudice. It just supports it. People are ruthless and sadistic in the lower worlds. There's energies that support such beings for a time. And then the rug is pulled out from under them, always, every time. And their kingdoms fall, and their tyrant natures fall. And the only reason they're allowed to exist and sadistically treat fellow beings is because the fellow beings are keeping them in power with their own negative thoughts and fears. This is the problem. It's not the prime source behind life doing any of this. It's us who are supposed to be co-creating with it who are not doing it. That's the problem. So this is changing. When you imagine someone you respect and love, you're grateful they're in your life. It can be a person, place, or thing. It could be a baby's smile. It could be a hummingbird fluttering in front of a flower, a waterfall, walking on the beach, hearing the sound of the ocean crashing. Any image that has a heart-moving, uplifting nature that makes you smile inside when you first see it. This is a key to working with the hue, because there is no negative nature whatsoever in such images. No destruction, just beauty. A cow grazing on grass in a pasture. No negative nature. A whale swimming in the ocean, minding its own business. No negative nature. The life on planet Earth treats each other, as far as nature and animals are concerned, and mammals, because of what the dominant species does. Life in nature, the way it can be vicious, the way animals are eaten by other animals, there's few of them that actually are carnivores, are following out the pattern of the humans on the planet. It's a sad truth, but it's a fact. Which means life on other worlds and animals do not live. There's no nature on those planets that they call nature like people call nature on Earth. Because nature on Earth is twisted. It's not normal. Not yet. This is the kind of awareness we have to begin to go on these journeys and gain benefit from them. We gain it. Shantiel and Tonaltiel and Dantian and Lamtian and many of their other associates whose names I've never mentioned to any of you go with us on these journeys voluntarily. They do so because they too want to go with us above the void, back home. These journeys provide a doorway for them from all over the galaxy, from all over the lower dimensions to go on these journeys. Many of them are master teachers who can go on these journeys with others themselves. But this is being done for our benefit because this is second nature to them. They know it's not second nature to us. They know we've long since forgotten how to travel across the void as a second nature. So it has to be gradually unraveled. The tight knots of fear and subconscious natures have to be undone carefully, gradually, so a person can learn the wisdom they need. When they are free, they will keep it. The master teachers I work with would never give you any help over a hurdle until they think if they gave it to you, you would keep it. This is the way they really work. This is why Earth's staying like it is for now. It is changing, but it's reluctantly changing. There are events coming that will happen to this planet of people in order to inspire them to let go of fear, not terrorize them. Because without that, they're not going to make any progress. I'm going to send out the hue here to start the journey. And this will create a doorway between the lower worlds of time and space, just right out in space, outside of Earth, up through the void, and up into Satnam's realm and beyond. And these hues are going to connect to each dimensional reality, creating a part of this vortex with Terrellian and Satnam and others who co-create these portals with me, and I with them. You're also all involved in creating these doorways as well, because your co-creative contribution and freedom is part of the journey as Atmas. So you're also helping to create that. Without Terrellian, without Satnam, Etan Din, Opelum, Ramu, and many, 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 many others you don't even know yet or don't remember. We could not create these portals because we think it's neat, hip, slip, and cool. It's like a cool thing to do on Earth. Like we just can do whatever we want. No, we can't. It takes beings who have no negative or subconscious minds to work with the power of the source in this way. And they are willing to work with us in this way to show us the ropes. And then we're tested. They don't do it in a vindictive way. They don't test us like punishing you if you make a mistake, nothing like that. They test us because the omnipresent you coming through them will test us to see if we're honorable and sincere. If we really want to wake up and become a co-creator with Source and gain back all we've lost, they will help us do it. It's that simple. If you're not ready, they'll step aside until you are. It is the way they work. It's the same for me in that way as it is for you. So each you represents a dimension, a primary dimension. There's parallel dimensions, like layers of one universe on top of another, and there's primary dimensions, vast areas that contain many parallel dimensions, like the astral plane, or the causal plane, or the mental plane, or the etheric plane. Then there's a void, and that's a living conscious power. It's pure. It has no negative nature, and it does not allow any negative nature whatsoever up into the void. We have to leave that behind with the sleeping bodies we're running that are part negative nature. And we go back as the Atma in our pure form, our true form. It connects to the void, connects to Satnam's realm, the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, and up through the dimensions you've not been exposed to yet, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, Agam Purusha, Source, and 2 more above that. The realm of the silent mentors and the Hue Expansion Ray plane. All in existence in eternity. We are Atmas. We have the ability to co-creatively contribute to every one of these realities. But we have to know it. And we have to be trusted. If we expect the loving kindness of masterful beings to help us, then we have to do a service. We have to co-creatively assist them as well. It's reciprocal. When you imagine being near the ceiling, floating there, that's just daydreaming. Everybody knows how to do that. But they're not brought up on Earth to imagine and understand how to see other planets and beings from other worlds and other dimensions and the portals between dimensions, and to go all the way up through those dimensions and to go to the void and to go to Satnam's realm and to the U Expansion Ray Academy and out to planet Zetranami 1 or Zentornamon 1 or Norexilum or Oceania. There is a planet in the Milky Way hidden from the Galactic Alliance even. They know where it is, but they can't go there in a ship because it's a planet that is kept shielded from conscious view of other beings. It's called Nystrea. It is the conscious world of the silent mentors, located on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, near one end, near the end of one of the Severan spiral arms. So they have a presence here, but it's their management world for this galaxy. And if you flew over it in a ship, you wouldn't even see it. You have to be invited to such places. You can't just go there because you want to. We can't just go to Satnam's realm because it's neat, hip, slick, and cool. We have to be invited, and we have to be given permission. We already have this permission because of these journeys. There's a being hovering beside you, spherical being like you, maybe a little brighter than you, but that's because they were never born on Earth. This is an Atma operating all of its higher faculties and still turning on some that they used to use to travel home to Source. They can have all the other faculties turned on in the Galactic Alliance and still not remember how to go home. This work is unique. It was brought into existence to help beings on the lower worlds of time and space, including the Galactic Alliance, recover certain things that have kept the lower worlds from changing. What would have been the future destiny of this planet has already been permanently altered. The one that would have been here would have been destruction. Third World War. Most people killed, all that kind of thing. But that is not the destiny for this world anymore. The real trick is getting a mass of people, at least a small percentage of them, awake enough to contribute to this change. And it doesn't take a big percentage at all. But it takes more than we have yet. So that is underway. The beings, these spherical beings hovering beside you, are showing you a man and a woman body, perfect, flawless, handsome, beautiful, about 36, about 6 feet tall. Personnel of the Galactic Alliance. Consider them also personnel of Satnam, because they are now becoming co-creators with that being and beings from the higher worlds as well. This has changed world systems and outside of Earth, or we wouldn't be getting the help we're getting now. If people really respected such things when it crosses their path, they wouldn't do some of the silly, idiotic things they do, thinking that it's their right to do whatever the hell they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. This is not the way the universe is set up. There are guardians at the doorways between dimensions. This has not changed. There are master teachers who oversee, making sure no one goes into the upper realities with negative ideas, selfish, egotistical, or anything else. because you can't bring that nature with you. None of us can bring a negative nature with us up there. So the body goes into the trance state we call sleep, like yours are in right now, and Pari's. Mine is too. In my case, my job, my co-creative purpose, in part, is to serve as a guide for these journeys, to help you see things you've long forgotten how to see on your own, places and what they look like. Because without your ability to visualize first where you want to go, the omnipresent power people call divine spirit will not take you there, ever. We are required to be co-creatively involved actively with it to get anywhere. So it becomes important that we begin to wake up our ability to see and know things in the multidimensional creation. And then we can play in it. They're showing you this body, but you're showing them, in your case, 4 women's perfectly beautiful bodies, about 36, flawless now. You don't necessarily have black hair or Asian complexions in that body, but it does look like the body you have on earth. It's similar, except this one is flawless. It is pure energy, and it looks human. It's dressed, but it isn't made of matter. And it's not an astral body where emotion comes from. It's like a transparent form of the physical body to many people. No. The astral body in the astral plane is just as solid as the one you have here, but it's made of a higher molecular time rate of matter. Lives longer, has greater abilities, limited as they are. This is how we start these journeys. When you find yourself at 10,000 meters in the atmosphere, wherever you live on this earth, you're looking down through the roof of wherever you live, and those beings are still hovering near the ceiling above your body, and your body's still sitting there. You, as an Atma, are multidimensional capable. You're spherical. Each of those colors and those teardrops in that Atma around the white core represent your connection, your ability, your knowing to circumnavigate all the dimensions, even beyond the void. It's built into us. It's part of who we are. You go up on some place like Earth, it's a difficult challenge to try to wake up things that you were never given the slightest bit of training in growing up. Where would the confidence come from that? You could have 10 PhDs on Earth and not know any of this stuff and be frightened of it. That's the problem. Fear is artificial. It has never been part of our true nature, and it is, without question, implanted in people. You ask the right question, requires great courage. How did it get implanted? What happened to you when it happened? How were you vulnerable? These are the questions people will not ask on Earth. They're afraid to. Most people get out of their body every night, but they're afraid to know it consciously. Or they've been taught demons will get them. Or churches and places on Earth can't control them, because the leaders of those faiths are also in fear. The opposite of faith and belief is doubt and fear. We have to go beyond this. We have to take faith and belief, which is fine, into the next step. And that is direct knowing, awakening, and experience. You're in the atmosphere. You have a telephoto capability. You can look right through the roof of your house. Then you find yourself in space. We're still the same beings. We're standing in a circle around Ambassador Trillian. Why is he here? This majestic being who doesn't have to do this. He's not obligated to serve our whims or our desires or anything like that. He does it because the Say race, as evolved as they are or were, went through a change of their own, from new energies moving from the high worlds down through them. This brought about his meeting with the Galactic Alliance Council, and that changed them, and that brought about what they're doing with Earth now, that has never been done before, not in the ways it's being done now. These stands are 18 feet tall. To give you a perspective of what the Say race, human race, was like. They do not exist anymore in physical form. They did several billions of years ago. They are responsible for creating human bodies, humanoid bodies, mantis, the drens, any kind of higher nature of a body manifestation that a higher atma is able to run through that body. The Say race had a hand in it. They are far beyond people's understandings of genetic scientists. They didn't mutate people and pervert people. They brought these different mammal and animal forms up into a higher characteristic, a higher development, so that the atmas that could be assigned to those bodies could run higher powers of co-creativity through the nervous system of that form. This was how it was meant to be. So they had a hand in doing this and bringing these different races up to spacefaring capability. And then they disappeared from any involvement with any of us. And that was because not just them, but the higher natures above the void wanted to see what we'd do with it. It was an experiment. It's an experiment that failed from what it is intended to do. The experiment of good and evil, that evil, the devil and all that, putting a pitchfork to your rear end, lighting a fire under your feet so you'll run away from the fire with spiritual logic, failed. It became so enticing to people, the joys and the way people run bodies, their attachments to things became so powerful that it began to trap them until they couldn't remember where they came from. And this happened before you were ever caught and implanted, stuffed in a body on Earth. So there's a lot to wake up here. The implants have to go. The subconscious mind has to be retired permanently. If you're going to run a body in freedom as an Atma, there can't be any subconscious mind. People on Earth have one. People in other worlds, for the most part, do not. There is a big difference. So it is such beings as this that remove implants. Not me. A master teacher could probably remove an implant. But in general, master teachers are not really trained in that specific aspect of things. So they have to work with many others co-creatively to get all of this done. A master teacher can help you remember the higher faculties you are afraid to remember by demonstrating them for you directly from themselves so we pick up on it. There are other beings who actually do the technical aspect of removing these programs. They are way beyond people on Earth. They cannot be controlled or manipulated by me or anybody on this planet. They cannot be used for anybody, by anybody for their own selfish reasons. They aren't motivated by the things that motivate people on Earth at all. And it's a privilege to work with them. So you find yourself in space standing around this majestic being, Ambassador Trillian, who's 18 feet tall, wearing a white gown, kind of ivory. It's not even Caucasian. It's different than that, but it looks kind of like an ivory yellow skin. Long blonde type hair down to his shoulders. Big blue eyes, bigger than that of an Earth human. Pointed ears like an elf, slightly, not drastically. And he's just holding his thumbs up with his closed fists, and there's a white golden light around him. It's brighter than the white golden light in space, because out here, in space, in the so-called void, that thing that appears black to people on Earth because human eyes can't see into a high enough frequency, is not black. The most advanced scientists on Earth know that that's not really a dark matter. It's a powerful energy. It's one energy. It does not obey the laws of physics that it supports. And it's the universal energy that more advanced races utilize to get around the universe. There's no such thing as warp core, radioactive warp core driven spaceships out there. not in advanced races, like you might see in Star Trek in the future, 2,000 years from now. No. That kind of technology is illegal. It's only destructive, harmful. You won't see advanced spaceships with tailpipes, burning some kind of fuel, polluting the space out there. No. They draw on this one non-physical matter, toroidal or zero-point energy, as they call it, and they pass it through the development of their types of engines to power them and drive them without polluting. No tailpipes. Really, energy is not even used. It's just passed through the ships. Antigravitic fields of force. Same as the toroidal field that surrounds a human body, that surrounds the atma hovering above that body. That's hue. It's made of the hue in a certain form to perform a certain function. We all float or move and have our being in the omnipresent power because we're made of the same thing. Bodies made of molecules and atoms and DNA are part of the matter of the planet that they're born on. Unless they're brought there in a spaceship, then they're part of the matter of some other physical world. You can't take physical bodies into the void. That's impossible. We can't even take the most advanced spaceship up into the astral plane from the physical plane, 144 parallel dimensions of it. They don't work that way. A ship could park itself in the 144th parallel dimension, just below the astral plane, and everybody could get out of it, float across this barrier into the astral plane, and get into manifested bodies and start running spaceships there, and so forth, onward and upward. The creation is big. It's bigger than you might have imagined before. But as Atmas, we are capable of understanding and comprehending it, because that too is our true nature. The hue comes from the first half of the word human, hidden in plain sight. It sets up a frequency of the pineal gland, the center of the human brain, and opens a doorway that connects to the white core of the being right through the pineal gland, so we have a way of bringing higher awareness and travels back to the consciousness of the body and personality we have on Earth. We have to be conscious to do this. Or like everybody else, you go to bed at night, go unconscious with the body, so to speak. You really don't, but you tell yourself you are. And you get up in the morning, and you wake up with little or no memory. Sometimes you have a vivid dream. Sometimes you're able to bring back stuff. When we're on these journeys, we're actually living the waking dream. We're actually on the experience of being consciously out of body and bringing it back to that body. This is how this works. It rubs off on us. So I've taken almost an hour to impart this information to you. And now we're going above the lower worlds. Etten Din, you know where they are, hovering above Ambassador Trelling, above the spherical atma he is, above the body he's showing you. Master Ramu's by Earth, he's just on the other side of the circle of us. There's more of us here than 5 people. There's the man and the woman standing beside you, the physical looking pure form you have here in this circle. It does not need to breathe. It does not feel cold or heat or radiation from the sun. And above it is hovering the real you, beautiful Atma. And you're showing this perfect form, a prototype you had in the beginning before you left to go and play in the lower worlds of time and space. When fear, subconscious stuff is turned off, this man and woman beside you, keep that turned off for your benefit, for this journey. Easy, effortless for them. They know what they're doing. That way you can go up across the void and come back to Earth and still go through gaining your mastery back to be a master over fear and negative things. Because we're not meant to be caught in the habit of looking into negative things, which is compulsive for people on Earth. We're meant to simply, if we find ourselves slipping into that fear of the present future, to back out of it, to go into the you, to just look away from it, turn it off. Because those implants get their power to affect us and misdirect us from our own being. That's how diabolical they are. They get the energy from us to run against us. The more you're aware of this, the better off you are. There are other beings. There's over 300 master teachers in 3 concentric circles spread out around us. They're from all over the Galactic Alliance. They're from Galactic Alliance personnel. They're from other dimensions above the physical, below the void. And some of them are teachers returning to the U Expansion Ray Academy to do a session, to do a time of serving there. And then they return. Others take their place. There is a cylindrical mile-long ship stationed in the ice rings that make up the 1.5-mile thick rings that circle the planet, the big gas giant Saturn, in our solar system. The Galactic Alliance Scout come from there, but they are not around us this time because they don't have to bring their physical ship to surround us. They just do that for your benefit. They're on board that Galactic Alliance parent vessel, sitting in lounge chairs, couples in a big observation chamber with windows looking out of the ship. Some are standing watching them, and others are sitting together as couples. And they literally leave their bodies, hover above them in this perfect physical form with the atom above them, and they join us from Saturn and are standing around you. Up above Atta and Din is my little cat Starlight with his glowing tail. He's learned how to do what Drens do. He still carries this kitty body because it was a brilliant body that he had. He can appear in another form, even human. But he knows that he and I are great buddies in this way. Atta and Din are Drens. I don't want to be a Dren. Starlight admires them. They take a personal interest in him. And above them is Satnam, and Satnam is standing up in space higher than all of the rest of us. Below a vortex opening of golden white light circling in a clockwise, the narrow center like an hourglass, you might say. You know, a thing with sand in it, you turn upside down, and it pours through the middle. Not quite that narrow, but that's what it looks like. And this is created when we did the hue. And so it goes up into, and you can see a pale blue, luminous, infinite atmosphere up there of some kind on the other end. Now this doorway, this portal, bypasses the lower planes of time and space and the problems you have with various bodies you're running. And you, as the Atma that's running those bodies, have put them all on automatic in this trance state we call sleep. Eyes closed, breathing normally, heart working. And this is for the body you have in the astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes. Because you are the Atma. And you're being encouraged to do this by Trillian and others on this journey. And if you can't do it, they've helped you to do it so that all those bodies are asleep. They will not interfere with your journey back home. We'll come visit them on our return. I think we've gone, probably with Pari, we've gone up through these planes below the void or back down through them several times, but not very often. We only have so much time, in a way, so let's make the best of it. We are out in an omnipresent humming like deep rumbling thunder, but pleasant. No lightning. It surrounds us. It's the hue in space that supports planets and moons and galaxies and suns and stars and us. And we're floating in it, just like a planet floats in it. Except we are Atmas and a planet is not what we are. There's a consciousness to planet Earth, like an Atma, formed out of the primordial hue itself. And if it gets tired of what people are doing to it, it can shake the human life right off its surface. We are meant to be trustworthy custodians and caretakers of worlds, not their possessor. We don't own planets. They're not our property. Bodies aren't even our property. Try to keep one forever. Can't do it. Could be like Turellian, have a mortalized form that isn't a physical body that looks human. Sure, that's more advanced. We can do that. You can even immortalize a physical body, barring accident, injury, or disease. It could live forever, unaged. Opelum has such a body. Ramu has such a body. Zinji and Tranamu's couple that run a little more than half the galaxy have such bodies. Turellian does not. He has a much higher form of immortalization. They dematerialized that body DNA, 12-stranded, stored it in a teardrop close to the white core of their being. And when he wants to show a form to us that if he landed on Earth and walked around, you'd go up and touch it, he draws on the omnipresent power from that pattern and instantly forms this body to show us. So again, he's showing us things by as a direct experiential based form of teaching. Because the hue telepathically is flowing through all of us. So his awareness of doing this is also flowing through us. Don't think just because it flows through you can suddenly grab onto it and know how to do what he does. There are certain tests we must pass to have the right to do such things. If I were to say that Satnam is looking for anything from any of us, it's only one thing. And he can wait for billions of years to see us come back to the source where he is, above the void, and offer to give him something he does not have. Instead of going there with our hand out, give me this and give me that, we go there with our own unique nature and insight to help him and others create or change the way the lower worlds of time and space are run. The basic principle behind this is to end the old failed experiment of good and evil, replace it with the hue expansion ray, which comes with a certain wisdom when it flows through us, so that as we awaken, we have the wisdom to know how to keep it and not lose it again. That is what the hue expansion ray means. There's a vortex above Satnam. He's standing there with his bronze-colored skin, glowing golden eyes, not yellow, 2 gold bracelets on each of his upper arms, bare-chested, ripped, strongly built, little white gown from his waist down to his bare ankles, just standing there, bald, looks to be about 36. You'd think he was from India, but he's not. This form predates any form in the lower worlds of time and space. Just like the form you show each other predates any form in the lower worlds of time and space. As a group of people, 300 master teachers, the men and women standing beside you, keeping your fears turned off, there is a golden white light of a brighter nature, transparent, surrounding us in an oval, and it's moving very quickly up towards and including Satnam. And then the whole thing moves up into this vortex. The sound of a high note of a flute is, and sweet humming sound is pulling us upward. It's coming through that opening in a pale pastel white golden light. And it comes from Source itself. And it's pulling us up through this vortex. And as we pass through the middle of it, we can actually see through this transparent energy moving around us, the blue-green luminous light around the golden light itself, golden white light. Levels, galaxies like the Milky Way, and another one on top of that, another one on top of that, another one on top of that, and then up into the astral plane and things get brighter. Then up past the causal plane and they get brighter, the mental plane brighter, the etheric brighter. And then we're shot out the other end up into this vast field of light, kind of a pale blue light. But it's brighter than anything down the lower universes of time and space. But to you as an atma appears pale blue. There's nothing here. No planets, no beings that you can see. No moons, no suns, no stars. It's just an omnipresent, luminous, living power. And we are in the middle of it, moving ever upward. This is the void. It is a pure consciousness of Source itself here, but it is not the realm of the Supreme Being. That reality we call the ocean of sound and light, or prime creator or source, is many dimensions above here. All in the upper realities, beyond the void, beyond the lower negative and positive natures of the lower worlds. The sound is drawing us upward until we reach the beginning of what looks like a diamond, luminous, sandy shoreline. And Satnam is hovering above it and sets his feet down on this sand. We are on the other end of the void, which is bigger than the lower worlds put together. So it takes a certain power, a certain luminosity to traverse across this void. And we've been invited. And we find ourselves hovering above this sand. This is this perfect female form you have, mine's male. Turelian standing offshore as if he's standing in an ocean, up to his knees in this luminous pale blue light. But it isn't water. And so we move up above the sand, go over the top of these jungle trees, which are very massive, transparent with luminous blue and gold and white, all kinds of light moving up and down through the branches. You can see right through the trunks of the trees, they're transparent. And hovering above groups of these trees is a single Atma. And hovering above them is hundreds of these birds, long V-shaped split tails, about a foot long, kind of like a blue jay. Rainbow colored feathers, just thousands of colors, blended gradually, beautiful. Two sets of bird wings fluttering above each other out of this top of the back of this bird, like a dragonfly, but hovering like a hummingbird. Two sets of wings, big blue eyes. And they're singing to us, male and female voices with perfect vocal cords. And they're singing the hue, which is how we get welcomed into Satnam's realm. And he's hovering just above them. And he's pointing his hand open towards another journey. So we go with him. We're heading away from, if you look down, you can see this fountain, the statue of Satnam in it, coming out of a 100-foot wide stone white floor, and a circular marble seating bench or stone about it. 7 concentric circles of botanical plants flowering in perfect formation. And we're heading over towards this diagonal mountain range, blue stone with white snow covering it. And we're going to this palatial estate set along the base of this mountain. You look in the sky, it's cobalt blue, brilliant. There's no suns, no moons, no planets, no stars here. Just this huge floating landmass we call the Atma Plain. It has a beach that surrounds it. It's like made of little polished diamonds, and it glows a foot above the sand. We're heading towards 2 big pillars like blue lapis lazuli, blue stone laced with gold, glowing. And we're walking up these hundreds of steps, about a foot thick, made of golden quartz, transparent, glowing under our feet. Our bodies that look human are glowing. The Atma we're hovering above them is glowing. Everything here above the void manifests its own light. Everything and everyone. So you see planets and moons and suns and stars are not necessary up here. There's no positive and negative streams here. There's no negative nature here. We didn't bring anything with us of that nature. We're moving through these pillars, and you see looks like a blue stone transparent chair with polished curved edges, no cushions, as if a being would sit in it. Well, that would be like a throne for Satnam, right? I've never seen him sit in it yet. It's more of a device, and he's hovering beside it, and he's moving us across this blue stone luminous floor out a triangular opening in the back of this palatial estate, which is all transparent glass-like crystal type buildings. And there's a bigger fountain, and it has a white stone thing. It has a blue tinge to it, scalloped edges, and there's a blue golden white light coming down into it, filling it from above. And it pours over the edge in a glistening even sheet and disappears into the floor. And we're moving out around this and going up above this fountain and looking out over the tops of these mountains, because the beam continues ever upward. And we're looking over these mountains, these diagonal mountains, to the left of them and over the top to the right. And you can see in the distance vast shorelines and oceans glowing. And as you look around the circumference of this landmass, there are different sections that have different colors of glowing oceans around them. This is a place where all animal and human and other life exists in a pure form. And when we go here, we can explore what it's like to be an eagle or a parakeet or a hummingbird or a cow or a dolphin or a whale or another humanoid from another planet. You can experience by just simply moving the atom over the form that's there, and that one that's hovering over it moves over you, and you get to experience each other as consciously aware beings. And in this way, we shorten our time to get back into enlightenment by millions of years, because we learn to respect all life. One requirement that we have for all of us that came from Source originally is that we know of and respect all life in the grand multidimensional creation. The life above the void, the life in the voice, and there are beings there, and sometime we'll go visit them, and in the lower worlds. If we're going to be conscious, trustworthy co-creators with Source, we have to have the consciousness of Source. We come from Source, so it has to be awakened in us, long dormant, asleep for billions of years. This process is only one way. Once we cross paths with the hue, in this way, it's permanent. That Source knows you now. And we're shot up this fountain. We come out the other end as if we're coming out of a vortex. And now we're in an even brighter cobalt blue atmosphere. It's just massive. And off in the distance, you can see a single floating landmass. It's just huge. And there's a white diamond-like beach circling it, glowing a foot above the sand. It's bigger than the United States, put it that way. It's huge. But things work differently here than in the lower worlds. There's a wave, blue-green luminous wave, curling and breaking on the beach in a continuous roll. It always circles this landmass. It's part of what silent mentors do as a device to keep it floating here in a stable place. Around the outside of this floating landmass are 12 domes on a single white circular island out in space in this cobalt blue light surrounding the outside of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, where we are. In the center of it, way in the center, are 6 snow-covered mountain peaks. Blue stone, white snow, and down inside we can look down and see there's a white island circular in the middle of the basin, in the middle between these 6 circling mountain peaks. A blue-green luminous lake surrounding that. It has a function. And a blue glass-like tower, transparent, that fits around the outer circumference of the island and comes upward 2/3 the way to an oval dome, that's an administration tower, and up to a minaret point. There is a fountain in the middle of that oval section. There's no statue of Satnam here. This is above his realm. It's just the white golden light coming down into it. And down inside the center of the basin, of the base of this fountain, we find ourselves suddenly inside, surrounding this tower. In other words, we're inside the glass tower, and in the middle of it is a little white island of stone and a 4-foot high vertical blue lapis lazuli type stone with gold lace through it, and a 4-foot in diameter crystal sphere, transparent, and there's a radiant cobalt blue star in the middle of it. There's a white shaft of golden white light coming down into it. And when you look down inside the center of this hollow interior, oval, big oval interior of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, we find ourselves going right down into this blue star and going down this shaft of light. And we come out of this other shaft of light that's running through the center of this hollowed out interior. And Turelian is hovering in the middle of it like a beacon. And around the outside of this beam of light are 12 white leather-like chairs. And just closer to the wall are these trees. They look like weeping willow trees with broad spoon-shaped blue-green glowing leaves. Standing above them, looks like a human form, are our silent mentors, alternating male and female with different color of gown pastel energy, representing different stations in our organization, and long hair to their shoulders, all colors you can think of. The skin is different colors, not human, just human, but human type form. 2 arcs, 2 legs, a head, long hair. You can't see any facial features because they don't have any. What you look at in the white light, where a face would be, are levels upon levels upon levels of galaxies in creation. They're showing you what their consciousness dwells on, what they're like. There is a huge Atma hovering above these 12 beings, 4 times bigger in diameter than us, twice as many teardrop faculties in them. These are mechanics of creation. And we can meet with them here and in other locations in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. This is the one place where we can rub shoulders with such beings. You won't find them visiting you on Earth. Their energy is, let's just say that they can appear in any form, anywhere in all of the dimensions of creation, from the very top to the bottom, instantly, in any form, to carry out a mission. You wouldn't even know they were there. They could be a bottle cap on your desk. It could be an ant crawling around in front of you. You cannot penetrate, or if they were suddenly to appear before you in full form, it would burn your body into powder. They're too powerful. So they don't normally mix it up with us. They don't normally teach us. They don't normally have any association with us, and never have. They normally don't have any association except for maybe a few master teachers. In this one place in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, we can experience them, and it will change us. So we have a master teacher, Turelian, and Ramu, and Opelum, Et, and Din, all here, 300 master teachers in a circle between Turelian in the center, Satnam higher above. He's come up here just to know he knows about this place too, and the silent mentors. And there's energy moving between these cores of their being down through this luminous face they have. It's passing through the white core of our own being, going up through Turelian, up this shaft of light. It's coming from the source itself, and it's moving through us. So here, Something is underway to give us a bit of an understanding of what it is to be a silent mentor and an understanding of what it's to be a master teacher. Something is being generated here, a new order of beings. Something different. Something that hasn't existed before, because to change the lower worlds of time and space, there has to be a new administration of beings to supervise replacing the old failed experiment of good and evil with right discrimination, the wisdom to wield the great power and never abuse it. Because the way it's moving through us now, it comes with a certain protection and also a fail-safe so that we cannot abuse it. And we find ourselves high above the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, riding that shaft of light ever upward until we come out into a realm, fiery realm, orange and yellow and red and green and blue and purple, fiery, moving out of the ground, falling into the distance, coming down from above, whirling, constant in motion. This is the raw power of eternity that is created here, and a single being floating towards us, a massive white being, golden white, many layers to it, is approaching us. This is Agam Purusha. When I first met him, I befriended him. We became friends because I approached him with a co-creative need to give, not to take. I wanted him to have a friend because few people would try to befriend this guy. He transforms the raw energy of eternity coming from above and generates it down through the planes all the way back to Earth. And he's in the presence behind all power in the hue. Hard to describe. So he welcomes us here, and in the distance you can see a tree. It's a single, massive, gigantic fir tree, silver leaves, silver needles, gold and silver, glowing. And in the trunk, there's a beautiful golden white light pouring up and down the trunk of this tree. These big roots go down and disappear in this light below. There's no solid ground here. And the top of this tree disappears in the heavens. This being is giving us permission as a group, including these 300 master teachers, before they go and do their journey in teaching in the different facilities in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. They are going home with us first. So we move through the branches of this tree, and as you pass right through them, you see in each needle of the tree an individual world or moon with life on it, different dimensions. Each single needle represents something from here downward through the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, through Satnam's vast realm, through the void, to beings that are there, through the etheric, mental, causal, astral, physical worlds, and all the way down to Earth and through it. And then we're in the trunk of this tree and we're shot upward. All of us, Terrellians, still in the center of these beings to keep a focus, to keep us focused on the journey. As we come out the other end of this higher reality, we're looking at a cobalt blue light so brilliant, you squint and you're in a pure energy form. And then you get used to it and you can see floating in the center of it what looks like to be a golden silver galaxy, one single galaxy, turning around a central, like the stars around the center of the axis of the Milky Way galaxy. And then you realize each of those things you thought was a star is an individual being, round, because stars are made in the image of such beings. Planets are made round in the image of such beings. We are round. Planets and moons and suns and stars and galaxies are made in the image of such beings from here. And so this whole group of beings is passing through individual atmas living and running here that have never left. And as you pass by some of them, you recognize yourself. You've never left here. We've always been here. Everything else is kind of an illusion in a way compared to where it's all coming from. This is source energy, prime creator. We're moving through these beings heading towards a hollowed interior like a void. And there's a white island, circular, floating in the middle of it. And hovering above this island is this massive, huge, Atma-looking being with thousands upon thousands of layers of individual colors and teardrops. And we are visiting the source. There is no single being at the center of this white light. And we're going to go inside this white light. We're moving right through the individual teardrops of whatever this is. No fear. And then we're inside the white light itself, hovering there as individual white lights within it. You don't have a physical form here, none of this perfect female form here. This is just you. And in this center is a nexus, in this white light, this focused area that is a consciousness manifested from all the Atmas in all of eternity and all the levels at one place, telepathically linked. This is what you would call the Supreme Being, but it's not an individual on a throne. And it can manifest speaking with you. It has unlimited intelligence. And when we're plugged in the middle of it, that unlimited intelligence is flowing through us. This is experiential. And it welcomes us home in a deep baritone male voice. But then it has this voice of a feminine at the same time. It's blended. And then it delivers a message to each one of you, meant just for you. Something that will help you remember how to create new ways of doing things with me and others in the Hue Expansionary Academy. And then we find ourselves hovering above the 6 mountain peaks in the Hue Expansionary Academy. We cannot stay up here long. It's too far removed from the body you're running on Earth. If we stayed there for very long, your body would perish on Earth, which would defeat the purpose of becoming masterful, wouldn't it? So we are now going down into a teaching facility, one of thousands, located somewhere down one of these white roadways that come out of horseshoe-shaped tunnels at the base of all 6 mountains and run down these perfectly straight white roadways like stone. In every direction, like the many spokes in a bicycle tire. And each road ends on the beach that's glowing, and the cobalt blue light surrounding this entire floating landmass is held in place primarily by silent mentors, by those 12 domes out there that float in this light, circling this huge floating landmass. We are going to the north. We're going to the southeastern quadrant. When you look down there, there's a white roadway that goes straight to the coast, divides this 1/4 of a pie, and we're going down this roadway and turning right into a clearing. And in the clearing, we're all of us surrounding another 12 trees. These 12 trees look like giant, perfectly formed oak trees with luminous leaves. And standing above them are 12 silent mentors. This is one of 4 such facilities in the landmass of the Hue Expansionary Academy. They have the different colored robes on, the different colored hair to their shoulders, the faces that's white light, the bigger Atmas hovering above them 4 times bigger than us. And hovering above a white stone floor in the center is a blue crystal sphere with a cobalt blue star in it. It is a focusing device, and there's a white golden light, very bright, coming down into this star and radiating through the glass-like surface of this sphere. And it is connected to the white core of the Atmas, and through the white faces of the forms they're sharing with us, and through the perfect form you're sharing with them, and into the white core of your being hovering above it. And then it goes into the center of this shaft of light above this crystal. So we're between this crystal sphere and these 12 silent mentors. Turelian's simply standing in the middle of this beam up above this crystal sphere. He's still got his thumbs up. He's still holding a focus. It's what he does best. And so we are getting something, some kind of training from these silent mentors. Something is being imparted to us. I have no awareness of what it is. Turelian might have, probably does. But whatever it is, it's new. So it's beneficial to us in all life. That's the only way you can receive or give here. It has to be beneficial to all life in the entire grand multidimensional creation. Then we find ourselves going inside, down the western roadway, first left turn into a clearing, and there is an ivy-collared dome building, like a grain silo, and we're suddenly inside it. The 300 master teachers have now departed. You can see them leaving us and going off into different facilities and clearings all over the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. Beings are coming here at night when they're out of their bodies from all over the creation. And we're standing around a big, foot-thick blue disc. There are 3 semicircular, higher levels of white marble sitting seats, and there are a bunch of master teachers, men and women, standing with Atmas hovering above them, quite bright. And all of us are standing in a circle on top of this disc like a stage. And above us is hovering a massive sword with a blue luminous blade, golden hilt, just something like out of Camelot or something. But this is massive. This is 4 or 5 stories high, up this grain silo. And then you find that there's one of these hovering above each one of your heads. Remember, you are an Atma. So this sword is moving right through the center of the Atma. And you're holding your index finger up. And it's sitting on the top of your index finger. The weight is massive. Tends to push your hand down. And then you send out the hue. And then you find you can not only hold this sword up, but it levitates a foot above your finger and stays there. This is something new. This is called the Sword of Life. It's a 2-edged sword. It represents positive and negative in one blade. There's a golden light surrounding it. And this gives you the ability, this sword of truth, it's connected to source, to maintain being in the center of something with positive and negative outside of you, harmonized like the yin and yang symbol. The humming of this high flute sound is pouring through you. These masters ask you if you are willing to accept the responsibility to co-create with Source again. All you have to say is yes. I'm doing the same thing. I've been able to hold this sword up. I was the first one to do it, actually. Passed the test no one expected I would pass, because I trusted in the source within myself and the source beyond me. So I'm holding this up. And all you're going to see this sword move down through the Atma, turn transparent, and enter the top of your head, which is a perfect human form, and blend it into your spine, which is all luminous. Then we find ourselves standing on an emerald green beach. We are all the way down back on Earth as it is in the 3rd higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. And there's a big curved half-moon base shaped beach glowing a foot above this emerald green sand. Big jungle trees behind us. A beautifully cut moss-covered brown path straight as an arrow goes back several miles, and back at the end of that up a plateau is a single snow-covered mountain. And to the left or the west is a single clear dome covering a particular small city. The dome is huge. There are 3 massive pyramids, golden-sided, quartz-capped in the back third of it. There's a semicircular mountain range about the back half of it. It has little waterfalls pouring out of cavern openings, running down rivers, dumping into this blue-green luminous lake, just off the left of center, and little white domes with little white pathways for people that dwell here. And then you're on this beach, and Turellian's standing up to his knees in calm, emerald green, glowing water. It's kind of a blue-green, the ocean, but the beach is green, emerald green. We're inland up this moss-covered path, looking at a clearing off to the left, has a white marble stone floor and a crystal-carved statue of quartz of a woman 10 feet tall. It has a gold band around her forehead, a downward-pointing, emerald-cut, teardrop-shaped stone. Her skin is ivory skin-colored. Her eyes are violet. Her hair is silver to her shoulders. And then you realize, when you're looking at this image of her in quartz, she's standing inside a dimension inside this crystal. And we find ourselves inside it, surrounding this being, this beautiful woman. She is from the Xantarnamus race, from a planet on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. And standing beside her is her mate or consort, a little taller. And they're pointing to a world floating in this green atmosphere, 4 times bigger than Earth. 3 moons the size of Earth orbiting it, and a trinary sun system. We've visited it before, but this is a device, and this functions as a doorway. This green energy is a gift from this race to this place. That dome city, the mountain with a waterfall cascading out of an opening 2/3 towards the summit, dropping down a sheer cliff face and disappearing behind a blue-green forest at the back of this dome. That is a galactic alliance, Say-Rays, silent mentor, master teacher type of structure. There's no polluted thoughts in the atmosphere, no pollution in the water. This is an Earth that has no polar ice caps. We're on a continent, down near the southern pole, about 1/3 of the way above it, where this beach is. There's a Himalayan mountain range here. This continent's as big as the left to the right hemisphere, center over the equator. There's another one on the other side, 2/3 its size. The moon circling this planet, because we're now outside of it, has dome cities on it, atmosphere. It's turning on its axis, orbiting the planet. And then you look down and find your feet wiggling in this emerald green sand. And part of it goes up your legs. It's a gift. Up the top of your head, smiling, out into the white core of your being and out to the green layer. It's turning on one of these teardrops in each layer, all the way to the outer layer, which is golden. And then it's turning on a few more in the green layer. And this is to help you remember the vast nature of lives you've lived, far more advanced, out in the universe before you found yourself born on Earth with little or no memory. And then you find yourselves hovering near the ceiling, back on Earth where you live, on the planet you're familiar with polar ice caps and a barren dead moon. The being, the man and woman, are still hovering beside you, and then they vanish. They've gone back to the bodies they have on the Emerald Star Cruiser, stationed in the ice rings that circle the planet Saturn. This energy of a white golden light comes through you from this journey, down through the atma you are, hovering above the body, down through the body, out through the toroidal field, electromagnetic field, then out into space, out into Earth, out into pyramids on Earth, one in the asteroid field, and then it connects to the axis, the core of the Milky Way galaxy, and flows upward back to source, and it never stops moving through us. So you're back here on Earth, and when you're ready, open your eyes. I never expected to take in a view that far or that deep, but then you're co-creating it, aren't you?
A lot is going on here, not today.
And you can
A
turn
lot
on
of
your
training.
You can turn on your microphones if you wish, and we can just chat. I'm going to bring this recording to a stop.